Because what you, the unsung heroes in the wastewater industry, do matters. Join me, Suzan Chin-Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, a longtime veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry each week as I deliver industry know-how from industry pros who know how. Whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology, training and retaining great talent, sales and marketing, leadership and growth, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by marketing and not getting the opportunities you desire and deserve? Well, you're not alone. Many businesses in our industry have struggled with this same problem until they learned and implemented what we're going to reveal in Lifting the Veil: Secrets of Top Marketers, Time-Tested Strategies, and AI Innovation. This is a very special interactive bootcamp-style workshop being presented at the upcoming 2025 WWETT in Indianapolis. In this workshop, we're going to lift the veil on proven traditional, digital, and AI strategies that generate sales, recapture lost leads, and set you up to thrive in 2025 and beyond. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your growth and achieve your business goals in 2025 and beyond. Click the link below in the show notes for more information and to reserve your seat at this very special workshop. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, February 18th, 2025. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DooDoo Diva Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting with Dr. Clare Monteau, who is the CEO of her own consulting agency that specializes in empowerment and leadership training for all types of organizations for success. And we are going to be kicking off a 3-part series on workforce development. And I know that you are really going to enjoy this. Clare and I actually met when we were both receiving our certification and training to become Wiley Everything Disc partners and certified workshop facilitators. So this is something, and it's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, but she's really the expert on this. And so I'm so happy that she is going to be with us today and for our series. So welcome to the show, Clare.
Yes, thank you, Suzan. It's so good to be here. Excited to have these conversations with you.
Yes, excellent. So we're going to kick off the first part in our series on COVID, more that how COVID has really affected our workplace culture, ourselves as managers, business owners, leaders, as well as our staff and supervisors. And as much as we really don't want to admit it, it has changed us profoundly. And the workplace has changed dramatically. It's never really ever going to go back to the way it was. You know, we were put into a situation where there was a lot of remote work, even though most of us were in, quote unquote, we would consider the essential industries. But there were many positions and people in manufacturing and contracting in cities where there's remote work. And I've seen it and I have felt it that many of us during that period of COVID, where we were very isolated, where we were working remotely, we felt that disconnect from our coworkers and lost maybe some of our soft skills in that human element and how to interact with each other on a daily basis as human beings. And that's created a lot of struggle for many people coming back from being at home, working remotely, and now they're back in the workplace. And in addition, I think during the whole COVID, many of us were traumatized from it. There's a lot of fear. We're grieving over what we lost. And I see that's brought up a lot of emotions and a lot of things to the forefront. And so because of that, I wanted Clare to talk about how do we help our staff and maybe even ourselves we can't go back, but how do we create a healthy workplace culture in the face of all these different, as you say, these shifts in how we worked. And even there's still some people that are remote working part-time, to really have a healthy workplace environment, to be productive, to be happy, and to keep our employees and even recruit new faces into our industry. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to let the expert talk on this.
So many good points there, and I'm going to do my best to speak to each one. And I think one of the biggest things you said is this idea that although of course we're always thinking about how do we create teams, right, that are successful, it starts with ourselves. And so the first place to look is really like, how am I responding to the situations that we've found ourselves in? And every way that we want to lead others has to start with us leading ourselves. So that is really a great place to start. How are we responding to the stresses of coming back into the office, like you said, or finding ourselves sometimes in the office and sometimes not in the office? And I think really becoming conscious and that building that self-awareness of what's going on for us is the first step in then being able to facilitate greater, stronger relationships at work. And I think the other a few other pieces that you talked about there, but one being that whenever change happens, whether it's jarring change from the outside, which is of course what we went through in the pandemic, or just internal changes that we make ourselves and taking a new position, a promotion, it tends to put us in this place of a little bit of fear or a lot of fear, right? We have some insecurities that come up. We have the places where we don't know how things are going to be. And that doesn't always result in us being the best of ourselves. We don't always bring the best of ourselves to those situations. So I think recognizing that COVID brought up some of that for all of us, and any change does that. So it brings up differences between people in more profound ways, I think, as well, where we notice differences between people, that I'm not the same as everyone else. Why do people do it that way? Why are people responding in this way? And the more awareness we can build to that, the differences between us, and acknowledge those and learn to build trust despite those differences. And trust is really the difference between a successful organization, a successful team, and an unsuccessful team. It's one of the foundational pieces. And learning how to build trust on a team, especially during these times of change or potential change, is one of the most important things we can do, if not the most important things.
Well, now, leading into that, trust. What should organizations of any kind, whether you're private or, public, what should they be looking at in their organizations to make sure that they're creating an environment of trust? Even little steps. What are some of the things that you have seen that can be game changing for organizations that might be struggling?
Yes. And I think this question again goes back. We all know the answer to this, actually. If we each ask ourselves, like, what helps me trust someone? And I do this all the time. Like, I ask my participants in leadership programs, all right, tell me about when you've trusted a manager or when you've trusted your team. What is that like? And they say, it's great. I show up more. I'm more committed. I'm more engaged. I feel valued, right? They say all these things. And we're like, yep. That's why it's worthwhile building an environment of trust. And then I say, what do people do to have you feel that way? And it is such simple things that people identify. I feel heard. My manager makes time to be with, to give me time if I need it. When I speak, my ideas are acknowledged. Like, we don't have to do these big moves, like that every time someone shares an idea, we have to implement it. That doesn't necessarily build trust. But what does build trust is listening and giving attention to people. And we all, again, ask yourself the question. That's where I would invite anyone listening to this show, just take 30 seconds and jot down, what has me trust someone? Start doing it. Start doing it in really small ways with the people around you. It's not hard, but it's something we don't always do, is just keep things so simple. Like, how can I listen better? How can I show someone that I value their ideas? So that's, again, it's not complicated. I want to make it complicated, right? I want to be like, it's really hard to build trust. It actually isn't. It actually isn't. But it takes us paying attention in ways that we've often forgotten how to.
I like that, in that what makes you feel that way? And then how do you show up? Are you showing up the way that you want people to make you feel? It all comes down to that.
Yeah, exactly. I think consistency is another thing. In fact, I asked this just yesterday in a training that I was delivering. And, again, what has you feel, what has you trust your manager? And consistency is another thing, right? That they know what they're going to find when they see you, right? That they're not thinking day to day. They don't know how you're going to be, right? That some days you can have space and you do seem in a good mood, right? Versus other days like, oh, keep away, like they're not in a good mood. And consistency in that way is really important. And that's hard for a lot of us. Because we are human beings and we have different things going on in our lives, and we don't get a lot of sleep, and we're in stressful situations in our personal life and in our workplace. So it's hard to be consistent, but there's tools, there's ways for us to deal with the fluctuations of being a human. And it's a very important thing to do to build strong teams, is to bring ways of being consistently showing trustworthy behavior. And that is really critical for success.
Well, now that you pointed that out, because again, with trust and that consistency, that, like you were saying, we're all human beings. We didn't get enough sleep last night. Maybe the dog or the cat did something and made a mess that you didn't want to deal with first thing in the morning. I had to deal with that all the time. You had a fight with the spouse, or a fight with the child, or whatever it is. There was a huge traffic jam. Is that, what are some of the ways that you tell people, all right, that is on the outside. How do you shake that off to give yourself kind of like a reboot when you come into the office, to not let that impact? Maybe there's just little things. I mean, for me, I know that every morning before I start, I need to take 20 to 30 minutes just for me, to center, to breathe, to not think about anything else, but just, okay, I'm going to get grounded for this day ahead, what it is that I want to happen in this productive day. That works for me. Anything else that you can add to that, that's a good, I would say, like a reboot button.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, reboot, because of course, starting your day right, like whatever that means to you, is really, it's a leadership skill. We don't often think about that as being something that's important for leaders, but a leadership skill can be listening to your favorite song on the way to work. That's a leadership practice, if that works for you. So we always want to be self-aware, and that's where all of this starts, right? Again, if you've had an argument, if you're late, if the traffic's bad, all of those things are external things that we don't always have control over. So what it comes down to is noticing, right? Noticing, like, oh, I'm off, like I've been knocked off kilter, and no blame there, right? No self-criticism about that, but just, I'm off kilter, and that's not who I want to, how I want to show up today. What can I do to bring myself back? So it's great to start the day with, even 5 minutes, 3 minutes of, how do I want to show up today, right? What kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of colleague do I want to be? And even just doing that question, our brain is so good at answering questions. If we ask good questions of ourselves, it switches on the most effective leadership part of our brain, this prefrontal cortex. Our prefrontal cortex is great at responding to good questions. And that question of, how do I want to show up today, which is essentially what you're doing with your 20, 30 minutes, right? How do I want to show up today? It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time, but ask yourself a good question like that. How do I want to show up today? And run through it in your mind a little bit. I want to, at this meeting that I have this afternoon, I want to show up and I want to listen well. At this potentially conflicting situation I have to deal with, I want to come calm, ready, and, well well prepared. And even just doing that, running through our day in the morning of just how do I want to show up, is a really powerful practice. The second thing is, of course, it can be external things like our home life that can interfere, right?
Right.
And there's ways to reset. Listen to your favorite song, right? Go for a quick walk before you walk into the office, right? There's these ways that you may already have. And also, some things are going to happen during your day, right? You're going to have a difficult meeting. You're going to be worried about a piece of constructive feedback that you have to deliver to someone that they're not going to take well, right? You're going to have days, times, things that happen during your work life that are going to throw off your leadership, right? They're going to throw off you in your best form. So again, it's important to just have, how do I get back? And I think about it as, how do I get back in my executive leadership brain? And I know we're going to talk about stress a little bit later, but any kind of stressful situation, whether it's lack of sleep, challenging pandemics, staff calling in sick, all the things that can happen to us, those throw our brain off and have our ability to actually use our executive brain diminish. So it's finding ways that you can get your brain back online. And, one of the simplest ways to do that is actually to take a minute or two to breathe.
Yes.
In, there's certain different patterns you can use for breathing, but essentially every time you change your breath, you're impacting that nervous system, you're impacting how you think. And that is one of the simplest things we can do, right? It's just do some, again, you can use box breathing. There's lots of different techniques out there. Box breathing is the very simple one. And that will very quickly bring your brain back into alignment. And it's well proven, very well studied. And that's what we want, right? We want to be back online as at our best self as quickly as we can. Both for our own benefit and, of course, for the people that we're trying to impact and influence.
Well, when you were saying think, I have this little acronym that I like to use to remember before, if I'm in a stressful situation and I need to respond or need to reply. And this is good for, all facets, and it's not just for managers, it's for anybody. And it's the acronym of think. T, is it thoughtful? H, is it helpful? I, is it intelligent? N, is it really needed or necessary? And last, K, is it kind?
Yeah,
before we say something. And it's also just, we've all been through a lot. And it's so important, I think, also when you're in communicating, to not be afraid to state what you need. Like you were saying, being heard. It's like, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean.
I like that. Yeah.
Because we don't have to be aggressive to get our point across with someone. And we all know that, what's that old expression? You get a lot more honey. What is it? You get a lot more bees with honey than vinegar.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so some of these old adages, I think it's just from that, we're in such a fast-paced environment too, and world with, things coming at us. And as much as we love our cell phones, in a way, I think that's really made it difficult for us to just slow down, like you were saying, to breathe and to take a breath.
Yeah.
Is that set that down, just unplug for a few minutes. I remember, my late husband saying to me all the time when I would get very, very stressed, he'd say, Susie, is anybody going to die? Now it may happen in our industry, it could, depending on the situation, but in most cases, is anybody going to die if that doesn't get done today? And in most cases, it won't. It's always better to come back at it when you have a fresh mind, you're rested, refreshed, and you can think clearly.
Yeah.
So, I want to thank you for this conversation, because I think it's a great segue into our next segment, which, spoiler alert, the hidden drain on your organization's bottom line. And I think a lot of you are going to be completely shocked and blown over when we reveal what it is, because it's something that you would never think of, never, ever think of. And as someone that does this and has been trained in this, when I heard, I went, what? No. But when we reveal, it'll all make sense. If someone wants to find more about you, Clare, what you do with Everything Disc, how can they learn more about your organization and maybe incorporating DISC into their organization to strengthen it?
Yes, my website, claremonteau.com, is a great place to start. You can book a call with me. I have great off-the-shelf solutions. I also have a lot of, ability to custom build something just for you. So yeah, claremonteau.com, and maybe in the show notes, you'll see that there.
All right, great. And so, Clare, thank you for this, and look forward to continuing this dialogue on our next episode. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, keep it flowing. Are you feeling overwhelmed by marketing and not getting the opportunities you desire and deserve? Well, you're not alone. Many businesses in our industry have struggled with this same problem until they learned and implemented what we're going to reveal in Lifting the Veil: Secrets of Top Marketers, Time-Tested Strategies, and AI Innovation. This is a very special interactive bootcamp-style workshop being presented at the upcoming 2025 WWETT in Indianapolis. In this workshop, we're going to lift the veil on proven traditional, digital, and AI strategies that generate sales, recapture lost leads, and set you up to thrive in 2025 and beyond. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your growth and achieve your business goals in 2025 and beyond. Click the link below in the show notes for more information and to reserve your seat at this very special workshop. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, February 18th, 2025.
Be sure to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest on the show, click the Be a Podcast guest link below in the show notes for more information. Thanks again for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of the Smells Like Money podcast.